Easy explain Darwinism, sexual selection. So Darwin definitely doesn't spend as much time going through sexual selection, especially compared to natural selection. But it is interesting to consider, especially since it is in his work of On the Origin of Species, and we've come a long way as a society and thinking about the sexes since Darwin's time of the mid 1800s. So it's also interesting to consider now from a feminist perspective. So, for starters, let's look and see what Darwin has to say about this evolutionary mechanism of sexual selection. So, he says natural selection will be able to modify one sex in its functional relations to the other sex in what I call sexual selection. So, this is really where, for Darwin at least, we start to see sure, natural selection is occurring on populations, it's occurring on species based on their fit to their environment. But sexual selection is occurring more so when it comes between the male and female counterparts of the species and how they are choosing to reproduce. In terms of reproduction, certain traits that are not only functional but just desired, right? That's essentially what we're talking about here. And now let's look at some other passages that Darwin considers here from a feminist standpoint. So he says the struggle between males for possession of the females. The result is not death to the unsuccessful competitor, but few or no offspring. Sexual selection is therefore less rigorous than natural selection. Okay. General, the most vigorous males, those which are best fitted for their places in nature, will leave most progeny. So here, Darwin is tying sexual selection back to the idea of natural selection, right? We're making that connection. So essentially, he's saying if you're a male and you are better fit to your environment, odds are you'll also be reproducing more based on the females choosing to reproduce with you because you're surviving, right? Because you're getting food, you're staying alive. You'll be more likely to create more offspring. And he's saying this is less rigorous, right? There's not as much of a vote here. But you can make the argument that okay, this is actually the most important. This is the most important part of the entire process of evolution, right? That what good is it if you're surviving and finding food and keeping going to reproduce if you don't get to reproduce, right? And ultimately, that is going to be within the power of the female choice, which is something that Darwin's not really letting on here. Let's move on to the next selection in this case. And this is going to be a rather shorter consideration, but individual males have had, in successive generations, some slight advantage over other males in their weapons, means of defense, or charms, and have transmitted these advantages to their male offspring. So again, this is very one-sided, as we can see, right? It's almost like he's implying that sexual selection is only occurring for males within males on behalf of males, that they are the ones determining it, and that it's only being passed down essentially through, Y-linked genetics, right? Not to get too genetic right now, but of course, here he's leaving out that there also are advantages in females, right? Females can also have weapons, means of defense, and charms, and males can be making the same choice as well. And females are definitely making the choice here for which males are, allowed and permitted to be reproducing. So it's not just the focus on the males here being able to transmit their genes in the gene pool, but also the females as well. So I just think that's an important thing to address here in Darwin, that it's very one-sided, and really if it's going to be more accurate for all of nature, it really shouldn't be. So that's sexual selection coming from Darwin and considered within a feminist standpoint. So for now, hope this helps.